What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Cyberhealer, and in today's video I'm gonna go over why every team needs a Sage. Because, well, Sage is one of the most important heroes in Valorant, and I thought I'd go over it. So before we get into the video, like, subscribe for more, and I'm gonna start a comment of the day series. So if you want to be featured in the next video, go down below and comment something funny, and let's get into it. So let's go over what Sage is in Valorant to begin with. Sage is a Sentinel that has healing, installing, and rezzing abilities. That's what Sage does. Let's start with her wall, alright? Her wall. I don't want you walking through there for the next 30 seconds. I put up a wall. Either you can break that wall, or you can wait for it to break. That's just insane to begin with. So, let's say that all the enemies are going to rush A side. I just put up a wall and make them bust through that wall so they have to funnel through. And I can just shoot them because they're having to funnel. It's almost instant aces sometimes if you know what you're doing with a Sage. And that's why her wall is insane. And I'm kind of glad they reduced the distance you can cast it back a couple patches. That was great. Let's move on to her slow fields now. Her slow fields. These are crazy. I can throw it across the map to hit something, and it slows everything. Oh, so you can even combo this with the wall to the point where they can't even move. It's insane. So I don't want these enemies to come through as fast as they are. Throw a slow field in there and they get slowed, like, I think by half. I think it's half. And this causes a lot of problems in the pace of the game. But it helps your team so much. If you want to look at win rates per champion, or hero, or whatever you want to call them, agents, I think they're called agents. I'm willing to bet you Sage has the highest win rate because she's needs to be picked the most, and she'll help your team win. And then after that, I think it's Cypher. I think those two are your top win rate heroes. And Sage is fine, and she's really, really strong. But her slow fields are just so broken. Like, you can't even destroy the slow fields. You just have to get out of them. And by that time, you're dead because you can't fire back or anything like that. You kind of have to stand there and take it. So, what about her heals? Oddly enough, her heals are the least broken part about her kit. And why do I say that? Well, because her healing has a cap. I'm going to heal you back to full, and then I got to wait a minute. And that's pretty balanced if you ask me. Not much you can really truly do about it, because even the devs have said, we like the amount of healing Sage does, so it's probably going to be in the game for a long time. So, I've learned to just accept the fact that her healing is really good. The one thing they could do to nerf her healing and make her a little more balanced is slow how fast it heals per second. So maybe it's half a health per second, in a sense. So that way it's toned down a bit to make sure other operators or agents or anything like that can get into the meta. Because let's face it, you have agents like Jett and Viper that are not meta. And you know who's taking that spot away from them? Sage. Sage. She is one of the number one heroes in this game. And you don't want to just bypass a Sage. Every team needs a Sage. And ultimately, I think her most broken ability is her slow fields, but I think number 2 is actually going to be the res, and I'm going to talk about that right now. Her res, alright, it is counterable. I'm not going to lie. It is counterable if you know how to counter it. But if you do not know how to counter the res, it is so dang overpowered compared to most ultimate abilities in the game. It's insane, alright? You have the power to bring another ally back to the fight. That's good on its own. That's Mercy's ultimate from Overwatch. But you only get it less times, and Overwatch is a different pace game. So we're not going to compare those two, even though they kind of are the same thing. So keep that in mind. But you can counter this ultimate, and I'm going to tell you how. If you can see the Sage resing, you can either shoot the Sage, or you can wait for her to res and kill both of them, because she won't be able to pull out her gun in time if you time it correctly. And that is kind of how you have to counter it. Overall, her ultimate is great. I don't think it needs to be nerfed. I think the only way you could possibly make it more balanced is if you gave it another ult point it had to take. So instead of 7, it needs 8. But I feel like that is almost too nerfing it. You nerf it over too much, and she becomes useless because she never gets that res. Because Sage isn't a fragger. She's really not. She isn't going to go out there and get a 30 bomb. She's a backline support that'll kind of walk behind her team with that heal orb open constantly. So, what does that mean overall, hero-wise, in the meta? I think for a little while, until they figure out what they're going to do, Sage is going to be the meta. Whether you like it or not, that's how it is. Overall, is Sage in the meta a bad thing for Valorant? Is giving the healers a spotlight bad? I don't think it is. With her being the only healer in the game, she has to be played. And maybe that's what Riot has to do. Maybe they have to add a healer to balance out Sage. And that's what we kind of thought Reyna was gonna be for a while, and she wasn't. But we can only hope that Act 3 brings a healer to balance out Sage. But I don't think the healing is the problem. I think it's her stalls. And if you can bring another character in this game, like a staller, and I'm not saying Killjoy is a staller, because she's not, alright? She's Raze on steroids. But overall, not much we can do about it. I don't really dislike the meta currently. I think it's in a good spot. I just feel like we need to tone down the operators. But I think that's all I have for today. And until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. And peace.